Welcome to another edition of People Are Animals Too, darn it. Today we have a unique opportunity to interview Dr. Marty Becker and his wife, Theresa. Here is Dr. Becker's bio. Dr. Marty Becker, America's veterinarian, has spent his life working toward better health for pets and the people who love them. In recent years, taking the pet out of petrified and ensuring every pet and pet owner can experience a fear-free veterinary visit has been his area of greatest commitment and dedication, culminating in the launch of fear-free certification for veterinary and pet professionals in March of 2016. This was followed by a website for pet owners, fearfreehappyhomes.com. And in 2019 by fearfreeshelters.com, which provides free training for all staff and volunteers of animal shelters, rescue groups, and animal welfare organizations. Dr. Becker was the resident veterinary contributor on Good Morning America for 17 years. He currently is a member of the board of directors of the American Humane Association, as well as its Chief Veterinary Correspondent and founding member of Core Team Oz for the Dr. Oz Show, a member of the Dr. Oz Medical Advisory Panel, and a Today contributor. A passionate advocate for the human-animal bond, Dr. Becker is an adjunct professor at the Research Center for Human-Animal Interaction at the University of Missouri's College of Veterinary Medicine. We are super excited to have the opportunity to be with Dr. Becker today. Hello, and welcome to People Are Animals Too, darn it. We have Dr. Marty Becker and his wife, Theresa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
My son.
Cutie. Cutie Pie.
Cutie Pie comes from here. That's a neatest story. This is first time back, and it'll be 6 years in February.
Oh, I can't believe it's been 6 years.
Yeah. And he's my son. He's Teresa's son.
Yeah.
Best dog I've ever had in 65 years of life and 41 years of veterinarian. That dog came from Panhandle Animal Shelter.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting story, right? Because we had the distemper outbreak. It's the first time we'd ever seen distemper, and you came in and helped us. And really, the work that you did identified the treatment plan because we didn't have it. And so then we were able to call all the vets that were treating the puppies that had distemper and was able to basically save them all except for those two initial ones. Yeah.
You know what? I really felt for you during that time. You know, I thought back of that. That's the worst nightmare for a shelter, and it's so rare. I've been going around to different veterinary schools over the past few months with our Fear Free program, and nobody has seen a case of distemper. Unless they're from the South, unless they've been in a place that's a low income place in the South, otherwise they've never seen it. And so when it comes, and that's part of the problems with under vaccinating, that people don't realize they haven't seen it, haven't heard about it, nobody knows, and then the vaccine rates drop down, because it's always out there in the wildlife corridor. It's not very easy to come back. Hard to stamp down, easy to come back.
What's that called? Community immunity.
It's community immunity, herd immunity.
Yeah.
Community immunity is, I think, it's a little better because we don't think of dogs as herd.
Right.
But it's the same for children. When the lower number of people get measles, here comes measles.
Yeah.
And that's why you want flu vaccinations, measles. It's safe, it's effective, and you're not only protecting your pet, your neighbor's pet, people you go to church with. You protect the whole community.
Yeah, and especially because we're such a dog community everywhere everybody loves their dogs, so these dogs are not just in their homes, they're out in the parks and at the playgrounds.
And you know what, every puddle I see as a veterinarian, I think of leptospirosis.
Yeah.
And that's something that is transmissible, very rare. Just think about the last time you ever heard of a veterinarian that was sick with something. They got sick with a communicable disease, a zoonotic disease from an animal,
right? And
even yet had with serious health conditions. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we always hear the negative, dogs bite, dogs carry bacteria, dogs do this, and it's so rare.
But that's a good segue, thank you, because I think that negative sells. Like we test it on our Facebook page, and we'll put a negative story or one like, this dog was found this way on the side of the road, because we won't do any shaming, and that one will get shared or liked like 50 times more than a story about something positive. Right. So it's what we're experiencing in media right now. and why the news always chooses to share these negative stories. So that's why we're doing this, because of the opportunity to really highlight people. And so I wanted to ask you, why did you end up in veterinary medicine?
I wanted to be a dairy practitioner of all things. I mean, I think people find that shocking, but I grew up on a small farm and ranch with dairy cows, and the local veterinarian that came out was like the hometown hero. And so he had me help him, and here you are 6 or 7 years old, and you see this cow that had fallen down rise up, and this other cow that had an udder this big full of mastitis and be saved. But I went to veterinary school to be a dairy practitioner, and the first hour, the very first day, I changed to companion animal because of a talk on the human-animal bond. Yeah. So Leo Bustad's very famous in the veterinary field. It's been called America's James Herriot. So that started the dairy to companion animal the first hour, the first day. And then he was an expert on the human-animal bond and the human-animal health connection. So that took me in a different way than my classmates would have gone, where you're looking at just the science, when I was equally, looking at the soul part.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So you both do something that I don't know that a lot of people know. People who've met you know you do it, mm-hmm. but I have been in the airport with you. And you are really gifted at relating to people and listening to that story. So mm-hmm. I find it authentic and mm-hmm. wonderful that you say that you went into it because of that human-animal mm-hmm. bond, because I have seen you mm-hmm. in action. So what is it that you guys love about seeing people? I mean, for me, I'm in the airport, I'm like, oh, my head's down, I gotta get to the, and you're like, oh, hi. So why do you do it?
I want you to answer this, and then when we're done, I want to talk about something that happened last week, which you don't know what I'm going to talk about, so
okay.
You say why we do.
Well, I think just because we love people, and we love connecting with people through their animals and their love for animals. We just we do love animals so much. They're our lives, and so when we find out that people, just about everyone has some pet mm-hmm. that they really love. And so there is just naturally that connection between us with others.
Yeah, and you guys actually care. Like
we
that
really
was
do.
Yeah, like listening, and you're listening to a story, and you and I are talking, and you're going, Theresa, you gotta come hear the story. It's a great story.
I know.
So
well, they. I have an older brother. Theresa has 2 older brothers, and I have 2 older sisters. So when they talk about their kids, I really don't care. I mean, that's the honest God truth. My son got this, and he got this award, and he's done this, and it's just like blah, blah, blah. But with pets, it's the opposite. I want to hear about their pets.
Yeah.
And when our friends or neighbors or Facebook fans, it's because it seems competitive. Like, if your kids are doing this great, then somehow, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
But with pets, everybody loves to hear the stories. There's not a jealousy. You don't feel like you have to instantly respond back with your own stories.
Right.
But I want to say something about Theresa. So we met 41 years ago, 1978. So it'll be 42 years, won't it?
Yeah, been married
41 years.
This month.
Yeah. But so I've always loved animals and felt compassionate, but didn't know the depth of love for an animal till Theresa and I got together. And so she loves nothing. She can't watch anything on Nat Geo. Nothing can get killed. I'm sorry.
Something's always being eaten or killed. Yeah, so
yeah,
we can't watch that stuff.
And something comes up in the movie, and she's always blah 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 blah. Tell me when it's over, But just watching it in her own
with the
home.
animals, people, no problem.
Theresa and I are with Fear Free. We're going to. With Fear Free, we own 3/4 of it, and we've already signed. We're going to give away 76% of that 3/4 to Washington State University, and it's going to endow maybe 10 positions. Depends on what it sells for, when it sells, but hopefully it can endow 10 positions, endow chairs in the emotional. So the endowed chair, the emotional well-being of dogs, of cats, of horses, of swine, of poultry, of beef, of wildlife, of zoos and aquariums, of research, then do research, and then endow the Center for the Study of Animal Well-Being, of which the state will build the building. But at WSU, you'll have the Leo Bustad Center for the Human Animal Bond, the Veterinary School, the Paul Allen Center for Global Health, and then Seesaw, Center for the Study of Animal Well-Being. But because I remember back, so I'm 65, Theresa's 60, I won't say.
Yeah.
That was close.
I
I still got that. That's right. I misspoke.
Okay. There you go.
Back when I was a kid, they always listed the man's name in the phone book and not the woman. It was R.J. Becker, not R.J. and Virginia Becker. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And Theresa, of course, remembers that, even though she's much younger, she remembers this.
Kind of.
But only if they were widowed or single, you know. And so I thought, why is it always, that's bothered me my whole life. And Theresa can tell you, I've been a huge women's advocate my whole life, not just lately. And so this award will not be the Dr. Marty Becker, or Dr. Marty and Theresa Becker Center. It will be the Theresa and Marty Becker thing. So that's to really recognize her, not just to do something clever, but to recognize what she's done for our family and by extension with all the things we've done.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
I get points for that?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
quite
good.
an honor. It's true, though. We just adore animals so much, and I felt animals have always been a huge part of my life. Yeah, I can't imagine life without animals.
Well, Teresa's a pet masseuse. Every night she
Massages him.
We call it massagey, so he
Backs
he
right
backs
up.
in like a truck. You can almost hear the
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes.
And then her cat, but
Great
what
thing.
the great thing is when she has physical contact with a dog or cat, like when she's rubbing this dog right here,
Yeah.
after about 90 seconds, this dog gets this massive release of positive biochemicals. So oxytocin, the hug hormone, serotonin, the one we take pills for when you're depressed, right, or the runner's high, and phenylethylamine, the active ingredient in chocolate. And on the other end of this arm, this hand, Theresa gets the same thing. So
yeah.
it's really funny that there's a reciprocal spa treatment just by physical contact. So sure, the dog loves it, has all this great time, sleepy-eyed, happy, but so does Theresa as well. And she's got rheumatoid arthritis, which really helps her.
So if I come over at night dressed up as a dog, do I have
Sure.
a chance of...
Yeah, you bet. Marty has no chance, but
I know.
yeah, they can do it.
Can I put a plug in for myself?
Absolutely.
I want everybody to know this. Every night when we're home, I massage her feet for an hour.
And they're scary feet, too. They're not good
Every
feet.
night for an hour.
like
Because her
birdie feet.
rheumatoid arthritis. So
That's my favorite.
Really? Uh-oh,
My
so you have to
feet
come
rubbed
over and
and
have them do your feet.
Teresa, there's going to be lots of people wanting to root you out
I
when they hear
know.
this.
I know.
I
It's
know.
scary now.
I
Uh-oh.
know.
You better be better to me.
I can edit that.
We follow the five love languages, and we're really close. I mean, that's the blessing of we are so close, you know.
Yeah.
So, but that's one thing I can do to
nice
give
to
her a
see.
little help.
So how do you think you launched Fear Free, and it's been what, 5?
It actually started 10 years ago, October.
Okay.
It first started, but it actually started as an online education company in 2015,
Okay.
but formally launched where you could actually get into it and take the program in April 1st, 2016.
Nice.
3 years and 8 months.
So why don't you just give an explanation of what Fear Free is before I ask you any questions?
I would say, here's the easiest way. If you think of, you have a child, a grandchild, a nephew, a niece, or a friend that's 1 year old, and that baby cries because it's in pain or distress. Nobody ignores it. You know, at this Christmas time or holiday time or birthdays or whenever families get together, nobody just lets it cry. It's not cry, guys. Who cares? Everybody's wanting to respond to reduce the fear, anxiety, and stress or pain. A dirty diaper, hungry, gas, tired, needs a nap, and so a child that's 1 year old never understands why any procedure benefits it. They don't even know why changing the diaper benefits it. What does it? They have to take an enema, or they are taken to the doctor for vaccinations, or they have to have their ears checked, to have tooths put in, or they got a wound or anything. And they can't anticipate or expect the relief of fear, anxiety, and stress or pain, even if it's moments away. So every animal, not just dogs and cats, but every animal is basically a 1 year old child. They have no idea why. How would a cow know that putting these tubes in the teats for mastitis benefit? How would a dog know that palpating its abdomen to feel a sore bladder helps it?
Yeah.
And they can't anticipate or expect the relief of fear, anxiety, and stress. So pediatricians back in my day we were the dependent beings in human hell care. I'm not saying health care, I'm saying hell care. We were manhandled, manipulated, threatened, and abused. Nobody worried about if we cried or, The dentist used to pull my sister's ponytail to keep her mouth open at the dentist. And it wasn't, we didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But they changed. And so now pediatricians, with children, physical and emotional well-being. And that's what Fear Free is. If you think of a veterinarian before, you took it in if it was sick or injured, or preventive care, vaccinations, parasite control. But now we look at both physical and emotional well-being. So thunderstorm phobias, 4th of July, leash aggression, excessive vocalization, inappropriate elimination, all these things. We want to go to the vet, to love to go to the groomer, to have a great experience with the trainer, not thinking it's going to die, where you drag it in and it drags you out. Instead, we flip it, where the dog will drag you in and you have to drag it out because it's enjoying us putting the treat into treatment.
Yeah. So I just learned this. I think it's interesting that we have these deep, I hope I'm saying this right, nervous system, right? Our nervous system, and that any kind of childhood trauma actually stays within you in your whole life, and you either work it out as you get older, and so for some people that stays in. And so the fearful experiences at the doctor, all of that, you may not even remember it, and then later on go, I don't really want to go to the doctor. So it's interesting because I'm sure that it's very similar, the same thing. You don't know what's going on with the pet, but they had an experience that was not positive. So you're really helping them.
Some people are resilient. Like Theresa has an amazing resiliency. Like she had different kinds of sexual abuse and, growing up. I mean, kind of running the gauntlet, but she was able to be resilient and because it's always in your amygdala. I mean, she recalls every single thing that happened, but it only takes one really negative experience to permanently damage a pet or a person.
Yeah. So
that dog that comes in, this dog weighs 18 pounds. We weigh this dog on a postal scale, a UPS scale to make sure
he's on a diet.
He is.
And it's
Theresa,
very
don't
tough.
stop
Very
in front
tough,
of me.
isn't it, cutie? Every ounce counts.
He does. No, we do. We keep him. All our dogs and cats and horses are their ideal body weight.
Well,
we watch it very
he's
carefully.
Almost there. Not quite.
It's Christmas. Let's say this dog came in and had its nails trimmed at the vet. That's painful. Too short. If they got too short, they hit the quick. Now every time it sees nails trimmers, that's disturbing. When it comes into the vet and they vaccinate it and it's uncomfortable, that's painful. Now every time they see the needle, it's disturbing, or blood draw, or catheter placement, or ear cleaning. And so it never leaves, I think we all, I know Theresa and I, and probably you, have things in your amygdala you'd like to forget, that there's things that happened in your life as a child or a married life or with employees you'd like to just go, bring bleach, but it's in there. So it's really worse with animals because they're forever the equivalent of 1-year-old.
Right.
And so now in veterinary medicine, what is neat, we're working on giving treats, because before, if you're ever going to anesthetize a dog or cat, you would start food at least 12 hours before.
Right.
But what we're doing now is we give treats right up until the time we sedate and anesthetize. So we worry more about keeping the fear, anxiety, and stress lower.
Yeah.
They're less likely to vomit, which is what you always worry about. They're going to vomit and inhale. You still put the tube in. We now give it a drug to reduce vomiting, but we reduce fear, anxiety, and stress. We speak in hushed tones. We have sight blockers. We have padding and everything to reduce this.
Yeah.
And I just think that's, and then also, if you think of every pet that's not in for wellness, they're in because they got an ear that looks like a fire pit. Their gums look like a flamethrower went across it. They've got a torn nail. They've got an abscess. They've got a wound. They've got a hot spot. They've got a bladder infection, chronic diarrhea. Everything hurts. And so typically you're looking at this sore ear and they associate the pain with the person in the place.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So there's a big roundtable coming up at looking at how we give analgesics and anxiolytics before we examine a pet that we know is going to be painful. We don't want it to remember this thing. We don't want it to have a negative association. So isn't that cool?
It is cool.
Oh,
I love it.
I love it too.
I went to the vet not that long ago. I had a pug, and she has now passed away. But she had stepped on something, so something was in her pad, but I couldn't see it, and it was starting to get big. And the vet sat there and took a little knife while she's awake, held her foot, and started cutting at it.
Oh,
and
gosh.
I'm like, okay, no, we're good. But I kept thinking, are you assuming that there's no pain there?
That just makes me, my heart drop because what you should, they feel pain just like we do. I always tell everybody, if this is a child that feels pain with what you're doing, it's the same thing on the pet. So would you take a baby or a young child or an elder and just take a knife and dig into their finger? No.
Fish, they've done studies, fish feel this pain. I mean, all these animals feel pain that you don't think about.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
So to put a little spin on this, how do you think fear-free helps your patients' parents?
Oh my God. Fear-free started out, we take an oath to prevent or relieve animal pain and suffering. And now during the impeachment, I was reading something that John McCain said about you don't take an oath lightly.
Right.
And I don't think you should take an oath lightly. You take an oath to prevent or relieve animal pain and suffering.
Yeah.
We've been causing it by what we're doing or not doing. And I'm no Temple Grandin. Listen, before I had this awakening, I was stretching cats out into 2 zip codes to take a blood sample and part of a rugby scrum holding down a dog. I thought that was collateral damage. But once you learn it, you shift. But I didn't realize it was better medicine because pets didn't have fear, anxiety, and stress. They didn't get to fear-based aggression. So the injuries have dropped plummeted. What we didn't know was how it would help fear, anxiety, and stress in the pet owner and the practice team. So when you take a pet to the vet, it's bad circumstances. First of all, what's it got? Is it going to be okay? How much is it going to cost? How am I going to explain this to somebody? Right? So you think, I had a phone call today. Theresa and I were going to spend most of the day enjoying the day, and instead I spent the day talking to people about pets that were dying today.
Aww.
That's just the reality of it, but they're devastated.
Yeah.
And so in this case, this dog is a 12-year-old golden doodle. It's probably in the last chapter. I mean, the last few pages, But just think of that. What's wrong with it? How much is it going to cost? Is it going to be okay? Plus, is this dog going to bite the vet? Is this dog going to bark and embarrass everybody? Is the cat going to fly out of there and do hieroglyphics on their face?
Right.
I want to do it, but the primary caregivers of pets are women. So a lot of times they got to go and explain it to somebody else what they paid, and they feel what's going to happen when they say they spent X amount of money. So one thing about fear-free is, in a communications director we had said it the best way. She said she always felt she was hurting her pets by trying to help them. And fear-free had been going 4 or 5 years, and it was right after Trump was elected, I can remember, because she wasn't very happy. She was depressed. And she was going to take some time off, and her mother had passed on. It was the anniversary of her pet's death, and Trump was elected, and she's down in the dumps. And I said, well, take some time off. This is late at night. The next day she calls me, and she's like, oh my God, Marty, oh my God, Marty, oh my God. I'm thinking, whatever, they put her on. That stuff is working fast, man. It was unbelievable. Theresa could hear in the whole house. And she had taken a new dog to a fear-free veterinarian. When she got done, they couldn't get the dog to leave the exam room. Aww. She had to physically pack it out and put it in the car, and she called me from the car and she said, oh my God, Marty, now I always felt like I was hurting my pets by trying to help them.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to feel that way. And so what she means is it's sick, it's injured, it's not doing right, but I'm hurting them by trying to take them to help them.
Yeah.
So that always stuck with me. Mm-hmm. And then the practice team, this is going to be shocking to you. To be an LVT, licensed veterinary technician, RVT, registered veterinary technician, CVT, certified veterinary, they're the same. It just depends on the state or the country, but they're all the same. Mm-hmm. They've gone through a 2-year program, and it's highly regulated. $40,000 on average, 2 years of your life. Listen to this, 5 years after you've achieved that degree, 6 out of 10 have left the profession. So they lost 2 years of income earning capacity. They $40,000. Why did they leave? Because of the perceived brutality. They knew the hours, they knew the pay, but they always thought, I love animals and I want them to love me back. And instead they would love animals, and these animals, because they're fearful, wouldn't love them back.
Yeah.
And that's what Fear-Free is doing now. As the injuries have plummeted, the whole reaction, the relationship has changed, and when you're looking at both physical and emotional well-being, you feel so good about it, right? Yeah.
Very fulfilling.
Yeah.
So do you feel, I'm going deep.
Okay.
Do you feel that that incorporating fear-free into veterinary practices will help with veterinary suicide?
Yes. I'm about as big a mess. Theresa and I both. One of our kids are okay. We have, when I say this, look at me.
I was like,
She'd be
where are you
like,
going?
where are you going with this? This is going to be good or this is going to be bad. Well, there's 4 suicides in my family. So my dad's dad, brother, sister killed himself. And then my dad kills himself. And on Teresa's side, her dad's brother and sister killed themselves. So we got 6 suicides.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad used to call them skull pills. I have to take antidepressants. So I'm definitely on skull pills, right? But I'm very open about my own mental health struggles. And how, for Theresa, she can handle it with prayer and exercise, you know. For me, I run through the Bible on stilts, and I don't like to exercise, so I'm stuck with taking something in a pill. But it works really well. But here's what gets fatiguing. First of all, there's only 60,000 companion animal veterinarians in the United States. I was telling somebody in New York that today. They're working on a documentary. And I said, MetLife Stadium, we could barely fill a little over half of it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. There's more practicing licensed attorneys in New York City than there are practicing veterinarians in the United States. Think about this, extremely long hours. It's a small business. You have a lot of employee issues, a lot of turnover. Here's where it gets rough, though. You have to, when a doctor sees, like Theresa had knee surgery this year, the doctor always looks at Theresa, what is the best medical care we can provide for her? Veterinarians have to look at what's the best care we can provide that the owner can afford.
Right.
Very seldom is it the very best you can do. So think about this. We understand that they have a budgetary challenge, but when they leave, what we weren't able to do could cause this pet to suffer or die. That's hard. Number 2, you see life and death multiple times a day. And so you name it, we see it more than anybody else, more than ER docs, more than morticians. I mean, well, not morticians, I'd say first responders. Yeah. Every day. And these people, it's harder for them a lot of times to say goodbye to a pet than it is a human family member. Yes. I felt that myself before.
Yes. Yeah.
And so life and death, small business, long hours, low pay, student debt. The worst thing, though, I think, and this is why the veterinary schools have been very good about uptaking fear-free, is you lose the joy. And this is a good thing about fear-free. You love the pets and they love you back. We understand them better, what's up here. And it's a whole ecosystem. The pet owner, the practitioner, the practice team, and the profession actually does better.
It's interesting because I'm so hopeful that everything that you're saying and the enlightenment around looking at things from a deeper perspective rather than just surface level. I'm hoping that we see this trend throughout everything in our world.
Right.
Because it creates enriching relationships, like the relationship between the pet. I know when I go to the vet, I'm normally a basket case because my dog just ate water beads and I have to get them out of her stomach before they obstruct and they grow, and very, very stressful. And so it's nice when I...
You hear this happy groan? Every night, this is what it does. Every night, so Cutie Pie groans. By the way, when he was in intensive care down there, and he's our $10,000 dog. Yes. That's how much he cost our free dog. But he always looks at me, and he'll yawn, and that's not a stress yawn like you see stress, right? That's one of the signs. But he always yawns, and his ears go down, and he groans, and he always looks at me. There he goes right there.
Even though he's getting massaged, he's relaxing. He keeps his eyes on his dad.
You think he's saying,
yes.
She doesn't ever touch you.
Never. Darn you little sucker. I think I'll dress up, take your advice and dress up in a dog outfit. No, I know what you mean, though. We look at, I think, rather than replacing, your relationship with a pet, replacing you with a human, I think it makes you better at your relationships with other people. Yeah. Because once you understand that whole part about, Theresa and I were just talking about this yesterday this morning. Our neighbor was talking about the harm other people have, the things they have in their life, and even though he's got a condition that is the single most painful condition that anyone can have, and this is verified by my friend at the Mayo Clinic. I mean, he I don't know what you would say. He drew the short straw.
Yeah, it's incurable.
Chronic, incurable, and
he's young.
More painful than burn victims, everything.
Birth, anything.
Yeah, and he was just talking today, you know what? he was limping, and he said, "But I'm happy. You know, I love my family. I love my friends. I choose to be happy."
Yeah.
You never know what somebody is going through. I hope I get better. I don't know if I could love animals more. I hope I get better at having that same love for people. Anything with an animal. Oh my God, we are ready to roll, man.
Yeah, we're their guardians. You know, they can't
Yeah.
take care of themselves and protect themselves like people can pretty much take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But we have to do this for animals.
Yeah.
You know, there hasn't been another domesticated species in 5,000 years, and only dogs and cats have really broken down our hearts and homes en masse. And we were just there the other night, just sitting there, and she was rubbing her cat, and the dog was sitting there sitting on his back, and I was rubbing his belly. And you just think, these are other species, for God's sakes,
Yeah.
you know. Sometimes he just seems so much like my son that you wouldn't think about it. But what a blessing they are. And
So there's I'll try to get this so we can list it in the podcast. But there's a gentleman, I think he works at the University of Arizona, and they have a whole animal science department, and they're doing a study. Actually, and can't remember her name right now. It's Lisa something, but she is doing a study on shelter dogs and their stress level. And they're testing the urine of dogs that have gotten out of the shelter for a little while to see if their stress hormones drop and all that. And I always joke that I want to see your team out there chasing around with the little cup trying to get their urine sample. But this gentleman who I think runs the department was talking about a study they did in the Bahamas where they took street dogs. And the street dogs, even though they may not live in a home, but they've made a connection to a human, whether that be a food source or just a kind hand. Those dogs lived, and the puppies that didn't died. So the symbiotic relationship there is, they're finding that they're evolving so much that they need that human.
yeah, not want, need. Yeah, it has definitely changed from a scavenger that survives on the peripheries of mankind in their scrap heap, you know.
Cats haven't gotten there yet, though.
Not yet. This dog and I look at each other like, I don't even look at my wife this way. I frickin' love that dog. I'm not kidding you. We do.
We ask, what would happen if I were drowning and the dog were drowning? Who would you save? And Marty just is honest. He'd save the dog.
I said, you better be a good swimmer, Theresa, because I'm going for that dog.
You'll be okay.
But you know what? She says
You'll be back floating.
She says the same thing about me, so it's not. I'm not better. It's just
my
cat of
cat
her.
can swim.
Oh gosh.
Hey, there's a deep understanding.
Yeah.
It's
Well, this dog's got
okay.
little tiny legs, Theresa, about this big. Like
Yeah, but he's very buoyant.
he needs his father.
Remember, he's on a diet.
No,
He's very
he needs
buoyant.
his father. Isn't it crazy? I used to say there's only one greatest pet in the world, and every family has her. I mean, we all feel that same way, you know. Like, yes, I'm crazy, but somebody else, if you could just be in my home for one day, you'd see why I'm so crazy about this dog or cat, you know.
Well, and I think that's what even just the work of the podcast and what we're trying to do is that we care so deeply about that connection when we experience it, and yet we're really quick to diminish it with others. So shelters will deny
Knuckles.
They'll deny people the opportunity to have their pet back because it ran as a stray if they can't afford it.
Right.
And how are we really serving the animal and the person by doing that? It really should be, you maybe, if you're municipal, then you give them a couple opportunities to come reclaim whatever. For us, you get your dog back, cat back, no matter what. But that's what we're trying to do is say, stop.
Right.
Stop saying it's important to me and my animal and it's such a meaningful relationship, and then flip it and say that's not for you.
Oh my God, I love you for bringing that up. I think during this whole thing with the current political environment, somebody said, I don't know who it was, we see the best in ourselves and the worst in others.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to animals too. We always think, well, we do this and we do this, and how dare they do this, right? But again, you don't know. I've been in many shelters when that pet went from the couch to the cage.
Yeah.
And it just breaks your heart. You never know what's going on in that family. And I would rather they did that than what they used to do when we were younger. Theresa and I both have traumatic memories of what our dads did with pets back then that were unwanted.
Yeah.
Right? And so this, it's really interesting too when you think about that that whole piece. One of the things I like about Panhandle Animal Shelter, so I'm on 5 national boards and 5 local shelters. You guys are the top of the heap because you innovate. Because I've been around this shelter long enough to know when it was, 250 dogs in here.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have room. And then I see all these things you innovated. You're home to home. Why does it have to go from home to shelter, then back to another home? It could go home to home, right? And then there's, Theresa and I have done shelter rescue down in Louisiana. And we know there's dogs running out of the trees down there.
Yeah.
And so it's very regional where there's too many dogs.
Yeah.
And to see how you've done that, whether it's this little dog came up from, we always say he's a lowrider from California, he's got little short legs, but he comes up from California, and other ones come up from the south, and so you've involved with that. And then here, trying to destigmatize a lot of those interactions and these pets and these people, right? And but I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
And I've seen you go through tough times too, like the distemper outbreak,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we run a Pets for Life program, and so this is the way that I believe it in politics as well, is that if we aren't willing to work with people, to even share our point of view and understand their point of view, that's how wars are started.
Right.
It's that stonewalling, and
Right.
our job is to influence. So if you come in and we disagree with the way that you're, you have a rope on your dog instead of a collar, and we shame you for that, we've completely lost all opportunity to influence you.
Right.
But if we're like, oh, your dog, you guys have such an amazing connection, and you know what, I have free leashes and collars, would you like one? Now I'm building
Right.
a relationship with you that's out of respect and care. We have far greater opportunity to influence in the way that we want to see a pet in a home. How does that look? And it isn't done in a manipulative way. It's really genuine. Like, we want to help, and we see these wonderful people, and they love their pets so much. And our community, we look at it as, it's not us and them. We're all in it together. We're all community members. We all love our pets. Let's bring people together. And it's just been tremendous. So same thing, like what you're talking about with Fear Free in the clinics, and lifting people up and providing them with the tools to be more positive. Same thing here. All of us just feel better. We laugh more. It's a lighter environment.
Right.
We look at the positive intentions. We report abuse if we think it is, but it's on just a small scale
it's so
that
small.
we think.
It's so small.
And otherwise, we're just like neighbors. We have neighbors stealing dogs from neighbors because the dog barks at night, and that dog should be inside. And we're coaching the neighbor saying, don't do that. Go to the person and say, have circumstances changed? Because I'm home at night. Would your dog like to come stay at my house at night?
Right,
Because
right.
you're working. Build community,
right.
build relationships.
See, that is funny when you said that. I wouldn't even have thought of that solution. That sounds, because so many people even love a dog. They don't hate the dog, but it's just that they might need to sleep, or they're a lighter sleeper and everything. Do you know, recently there's a hospital in Chicago called Bloom Animal Hospital. It's where Oprah used to take her dogs.
Okay.
It's the largest veterinary hospital in Chicago. And they're a real fear-free pioneer. They've been there from the start. They've innovated. There was a picture recently they posted on social media, and 3 nurses, we like to call them nurses instead of technicians, 3 nurses with 3 dogs there, and one of them had a prong collar on. And oh my God, the internet went ballistic. They should be thrown out. How could they be fear-free? Well, this was a new client that came in. He was in for his first fear-free visits, but of course we jumped to conclusions, and that's going to hurt his trachea, and that's going to do this. And this was a working dog. The guy had the same kind of thing. He was a very good handler. Actually, in his instance, arguably, it's fine with him because he's an expert. Yeah. But it's what you said. Let's shame them. Let's put them down like you would never want to. You don't have a place at our table, right?
Our daughter has been going through situations like that as a trainer, where she'll see someone with a prong collar or whatever, and it is sometimes it's just lack of knowledge on what this does, and it's just educating the people to know what's the right.
It's providing awakenings, like you said, like that awakening, and in the best way we can. I wanted to just show our audience that here is the book, Fear Free. We will have a link to it on the site, with possibly some other books, because you're quite the writer. You've got
$25.
Yeah.
Is this the most beautiful dog you've ever adopted out of Panhandle Animal Shelter?
Oh, of course.
Kind of put her on the spot.
He's chairman of the board. He's got those little blue eyes still that he kept at the bottom.
Yeah. very unique.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support that you guys have provided, and I can't even explain how many ways. I mean, you've been doing, we're going to be doing a Happy Holidays celebration, and how long? I mean, you've been doing that for over 10 years because I've been here 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's big and so special for the animals to get a holiday treat.
I remember when it took so long. I mean, there were so many animals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just neat the way it's working now. We're helping, like you were saying, even more animals.
Oh, yeah.
Although you'll see fewer in here, we're actually helping more animals overall, which is
Absolutely.
great, you know.
Yeah.
And plus, you went beyond. Nobody ever thought about keeping pets in the home. It was one thing to get them out of here, but what do you have to do? I mean, I'm walking in the front door here, and there's somebody going out that you provided food to.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many ways that you do things that was never part of a shelter that I knew.
And we used to make people like sign out and like, well, how many times are you using our food bank?
Yeah.
And we're like, why do we care? When
Right.
the end goal, like Simon Sinek says, focus on why.
Yeah.
Why do we care?
Right.
Yeah.
That person is taking the time to get food and is feeding an animal in need.
Right.
Who cares
Right.
how many times
Right.
he comes here and does
Right.
it? So it's
that's
it's
awesome.
fun. It's very rewarding
Yeah.
to have to change from that mindset
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
focus on different things. And yes, and everything else you've done a tremendous
Yeah,
amount. for
thank
us.
you. Our
Thank
pleasure,
you.
man.
Thank you.